Hello， 各位观众朋友们，大家好，我是郝一博，欢迎收看美国大选专题，一起来看一下美国大选目前的最新发展。
You've spoken of unleashing the Kraken. Is the country ready for this? I mean, Americans should be astonished at what you're saying here today. Is the country on the verge of an electoral breakdown?
We've already had it. We have already had that electoral breakdown. But the Constitution, as Jenna explains, has provisions in it for how you fix this. And there should never be another election conducted in this country, I don't care if it's for local dog catcher, using a Dominion machine and Smartmatic software. We have got to have an American company that uses paper ballots that we can all verify so every one of us can see that our vote is our vote.
A statement released by President Trump's legal team is making headlines today. Reactions on Twitter question the motive behind the move. The statement says former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell is not part of the president's legal team.
Sidney Powell released her own statement clarifying the situation. She said that she was never part of the team to begin with, as there was no agreement signed, nor did she bill the Trump team any of her work. So she's simply just working for the betterment of the American people. The hashtag We the People.
And I want the American public to know right now that we will not be intimidated. American patriots are fed up with the corruption from the local level to the highest level of our government, and we are going to take this country back. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to back down. We are going to clean this mess up now. President Trump won by a landslide. We are going to prove it, and we are going to reclaim the United States of America for the people who vote for freedom.
When this statement came out, like many of you, I was also initially unsure what to make of it. But I would like to point out that there are deeper meanings behind this. The first reason is establishing her independence and goal. If you haven't noticed, she is quite fierce with her allegations since her involvement with this election's voter fraud. Her vocal and direct approach has gained much attention, including recently, on Saturday, Sidney Powell said on Newsmax that the level of corruption may potentially be bigger than just this election.
What's fascinating is that if we take a trip back in time to December of 2019, then we'll see something very, very interesting. At that time, just 11 short months ago, Democratic Senators Elizabeth Warren, Ron Wyden, and Amy Klobuchar, two of whom were frontrunners in the Democratic primary, they expressed worry and concern about these voting systems. Back then, these senators wrote letters warning the American people that these widely used voting systems were prone to security problems. They also wrote that, quote, "We are particularly concerned that voting machines and other election administration equipment have long skimped on security in favor of convenience," end quote. Now, around that same time, NBC published an article which warned us about Chinese parts and hidden ownership of these machines. They wrote that, quote, "Chinese manufacturers can be forced to cooperate with requests from Chinese intelligence officials to share any information about the technology and therefore pose a risk for U.S. companies." They also mentioned concerns of machines being, quote, "shipped with undetected vulnerabilities or back doors that could allow tampering," end quote. And it's not just last year. We found a news piece from 2006 from CNN titled "Democracy for Sale." And in that news piece, they discussed how vulnerable electronic voting systems are to interference and to hacking. And there are a ton of articles out there like this because this is a real issue. It's not a partisan talking point. And so right now, when you hear the media in this country in one loud, uniform voice denouncing anyone who dares to question these machines, which by the way are right now being used in about 2,000 counties in over 30 states, ask yourself this: do they really think that these machines are safe? Or does the narrative of them being safe contribute to their political agenda? Presenting the facts to you is not pushing some conspiracy theory. For instance, let's examine some anomalous data in relation to these voting machines. On election night, the New York Times performed a phenomenal public service, although they probably didn't realize it themselves. It turns out that the New York Times had recorded and published in real time data from the election. Now, a man named Woody Jenkins, who is a newspaper editor with the Central City News in Louisiana, he analyzed this New York Times data from Georgia and from Pennsylvania. And the results that he found were highly, highly unusual. In Georgia, this data showed that Joe Biden picked up 16 trenches of exactly 4,800 votes each, or multiples of 4,800. Always 4,800. And this happened over and over again in the course of several days, first allowing Joe Biden to catch up to Trump's lead and then overtaking him, and leading himself. Over in Pennsylvania, there was a similar story, except there, Joe Biden got 44 trenches of vote dumps, each one of them being 6,000 votes, or multiples of 6,000, every single one of them. This newspaper editor who compiled this data is pushing for a hand recount, saying that, quote, in both states, in both Pennsylvania and Georgia, votes counted were not the votes of real people. They were simply added digitally, which a complete recount of both states would detect. Now, a spokesman from the Dominion Voting Systems claimed that the company is nonpartisan and went on to say that, quote, it is not physically possible for our machines to switch votes from one candidate to the other. There's no way such a massive fraud could have taken place, end quote. Now, regardless of that statement, in my opinion, the evidence is there and warrants an investigation, and it looks like one might be underway. Yesterday, a lawyer for President Trump said that an election challenge in Georgia will be filed this week containing new allegations about irregularities, and he noted that, quote, I can't tell you right now, but what's coming in Georgia will be shocking, end quote. He mentioned that the lawsuit will be filed on either Monday, which is today, or Tuesday of this week.
If I may speak for just a minute, in terms of the level of corruption we are looking at here, we have no idea how many Republican or Democratic candidates in any state across the country paid to have the system rigged to work for them. These people didn't do this just to take control. They make one heck of a lot of money off of it. Think about the global interests behind your own news organizations. Think about the pressure being brought to bear from the social media companies to shut down free speech on any challenge to the election. This is a massive, well-funded, coordinated effort to deprive we the people of the United States of our most fundamental right under the Constitution to preserve this republic that we all cherish. It is of the greatest concern. It is the 1775 of our generation and beyond.
Another attorney with the Trump campaign, Lin Wood, commented on the statement on Twitter. He wrote, Sidney Powell and I are more alike than we're different. We are fighting different legal battles for the same clients, we the people. The people voted overwhelmingly to re-elect Donald Trump. All interests are aligned. In another statement, shortly after Wood wrote, there are no coincidences, everything is planned. He encouraged followers to keep faith.
好的，以上就是今天的节目。大家对美国大选的想法是什么？你可以在下面留言、订阅或者赞助我们的频道。今天就到这里，我们下次再见。